Welcome to the second part of the review of Bulleid Pacifics in my collection. What we're going to be looking at here are the latest models which are offered by Hornby, both in the Pacifics, that is, in their original form with the air smooth casing and in their rebuilt form. So what we're looking at here, first of all, is the model of Sir Eustace Missenden Southern Railway. Now, this is a fabulous model. It's manufactured in China to completely new tooling, and this is a fabulous representation of the locomotive. The detail is phenomenal on this. If you just look at the detail on the tender, I don't know if you can see the back of the tender, it's no compromise. It's all the detail is there, and I've not had to make any additions or modifications to this locomotive at all. The striking thing on this model is the rendition of the wheels, which are also painted malachite green with yellow lining. You can see the cab windows, the framing on the cab windows, they've already been painted a sort of polished brown colour. The rendition of the pipework, the injector pipework, is very accurately portrayed. Small wonder that the guy at the front is looking at this in some sense of awe. Moving along, we see the representation of the original design in its final form, because there was, I don't know, there was about 30 of these thereabouts, which continued up until withdrawal in the BR period. In their original state. I think there were some modifications made to them, some efforts to address some of the difficulties they had with them. Certainly the tenders were cut down to that sort of look, and they looked fine too, didn't they? That one's Coombe Martin, beauty spot in the West Country. Just move it around the back so you can see the detail on the tender. Now, the next one is one of the favourites in my collection. This is absolutely stunning. This is what is it? Fighter Command. Yeah, I wasn't sure whether it's Fighter Pilot or Fighter Command. This is a representation of how these locomotives looked when they came out of works. They were painted in this colour or this style and this grey, black and white colouring for photographic purposes, because pictures and photographs back in the day then were nearly all black and white or monochrome, and this was the best way of actually representing a locomotive in all its detail and its potential livery style, was by painting them in this colour. It also served, I suppose, as a primer, but it's absolutely fabulous. I just love those white axle boxes on the tender and on the pony truck beneath the firebox and cab. Stunning. And I'll just move round to the front, so bear with me while I try and keep this as still as possible. You can see in there the circular Southern Railway emblem around the smoke box door handle, and the handles and hinges have been picked out, buffer heads picked out, the lamp irons and electric lamps have been picked out, along with the vacuum pipe. Quite striking. Fabulous engine. Next along, we go to the latest Hornby rendition of the rebuilt Merchant Navy class. Now, this marked a massive turning point in the history of Hornby locomotives, because this was entirely new tooling, and the manufacturing base was transferred to China, leaving the Margate factory as more like a headquarters under, well, I don't know what else they used it for, but presumably it's been in some usage other than manufacturing. Now, I say this was a turning point because I remember reading a review of the new Hornby Merchant Navy class, and the first thing that was stated on the review was, "This does not look like a Hornby locomotive." And I suppose what they were referring to was the fact that it didn't resemble or have the usual hallmarks and stylistic features that which were very prevalent on those Margate produced locomotives from about 1980 to 1990. The wheels were much finer, the valve gear was much finer, and the actual moulding also was much more finely detailed. So this represented quite an advance for Hornby, and very much put them back on track, and offering competition again to other manufacturers, probably most notably Bachmann. Lovely model. The other thing it seemed that featured, I don't know whether they still do this on this locomotive, is that the rear set of driving wheels have suspension on them. Quite what that was intended for, I don't know, but I don't think it features on any other locomotive. That, I forget what the first one that they made, what the name was, but whatever it was, I wasn't particularly enamoured by it, so I had it renamed, and that one's called East Asiatic Company. I think was it TMC did that for me. Moving along, we've got Elder Fifes. This one's paired with a slightly shorter tender, but definitely it was a Merchant Navy tender. You can tell by the way it's been built up, but it's on the shorter wheelbase. Fabulous model. I'm going to look at it through the array of signal gantries. That one's got a southern headboard on it with the route indicator discs. And moving along, we have a rebuilt light Pacific here, one from the Battle of Britain class. This one is Sir Keith Park. I think this one's in preservation as well. This came out a bit later than the Hornby Merchant Navy. It was only a matter of time before they get around to doing it, but it was a few years later, and there are significant improvements in the manufacture and the detail on this locomotive compared to the Merchant Navy. They're hard to pinpoint, but you just look at it and you can say there's been an advance on it. Not that there's anything wrong with the Merchant Navy, of course, but obviously, as with all of these things, the manufacturers just get better and better at their processing and manufacturing and accuracy. One thing, the most obvious thing that I noticed with it was picking it up, that it's considerably heavier than the Merchant Navy, and that was a step in the right direction. Because if anything, some of these China-produced models were a little bit on the light side. The Bachmann ones tend to be a bit heavier, a bit more solid, have a more solid feel to them. But be that as it may, Hornby seem to have recognised that in this particular model. So that's an overview of the Bulleid Pacifics in my collection. I'll just run the camera past them again. And you can just see the differences in the models, the manufacturers. Here, back to the Wren. And these very late produced Wren models, which are to be found on the very exclusive auction houses. Still get I see one or two on the eBay. Ones I've seen there. They are few and far between, but they're usually something wrong with them. They've either been knocked about a bit of damage on them, a bit of wear and tear on them, and they're still asking ridiculous prices for them, and I'm not doing that. And finishing up on here with the earlier Hornby versions, which still look good. Going round on the layout, when you can't see all the detail, they're almost as good as the China versions, in my opinion. Captured it quite well. Triang did well with that moulding. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the survey as we were looking at the, well, controversial Bulleid Pacifics.